সম্মানিত সুধী মণ্ডলী, আসসালামু আলাইকুম। আমরা যদি না জাগি মা, কেমনি সকাল হবে? তোমার ছেলে জাগলে মাগো, রাত পোহাবে তবে। স্বাধীনতা এমন একটি শব্দ যাকে গ্রাস করা যায় না যখন মানবিকতা সোচ্চার থাকে পৃথিবীতে, যখন জনগণের মুখের ভাষা কেড়ে নেওয়া সম্ভব হয় না, জনগণের কথা বলার অধিকার, সেই গণতন্ত্র আধুনিক পৃথিবীর মেরুদণ্ড। স্বাধীন ফিলিস্তিন রাষ্ট্র গঠন মানবতার জন্য সুশৃঙ্খল সমাজ ব্যবস্থা, গণতন্ত্রের ভাষায় মানবতার স্বর্গীয় বিচার। আর তাই তো পৃথিবীর স্বাধীনতাকামী মানবতাবাদী মানুষগুলো আজ সোচ্চার। আসুন আমরা শুনে দেখি ওবামার বক্তব্য আমেরিকার জনগণের জন্য।
It is not fair that a Palestinian child cannot grow up in a state of their own. Living their entire lives with the presence of a foreign army that controls the movements, not just of those young people, but their parents, their grandparents, every single day. It's not just when settler violence against Palestinians goes unpunished. It's not right to prevent Palestinians from farming their lands or restricting a student's ability to move around the West Bank or displace Palestinian families from their homes. Neither occupation nor expulsion is the answer. Just as Israelis built a state in their homeland, Palestinians have a right to be a free people in their own land. You know, I'm going off script here for a second, but before I came here, I met with a group of young Palestinians from the age of 15 to 22. And talking to them, they weren't that different from my daughters. They weren't that different from your daughters or sons. I honestly believe that if any Israeli parent sat down with those kids, they'd say, I want these kids to succeed. I want them to prosper. I want them to have opportunities just like my kids do. Peace is possible. It is possible. I'm not saying it's guaranteed. I can't even say that it is more likely than not, but it is possible. I know it doesn't seem that way. There are always going to be reasons to avoid risk. There are costs for failure. There will always be extremists who provide an excuse not to act. I know there must be something exhausting about endless talks about talks and daily controversies and just the grinding status quo, and I'm sure there's a temptation just to say, enough, let me focus on my small corner of the world and my family and my job and what I can control. But it's possible. Negotiations will be necessary but there's a little secret about where they must lead. 2 states for 2 peoples. 2 states for 2 peoples.
Israelis and Palestinians equally deserve to live side by side in safety, dignity, and peace. There's no going back to the status quo as it stood on October the 6th. That means ensuring Hamas can no longer terrorize Israel and use Palestinian civilians as human shields. It also means that when this crisis is over, there has to be a vision of what comes next. And in our view, it has to be a 2-state solution.
We are marching here on the streets of New York City while a genocide is going on in Gaza. Innocent men, women, and children are being collectively punished, and unfortunately, so many others, besides the thousands murdered, so many others are starved to death. This is something that humanity should never allow. As human beings, we stand up and we join so many other people here in New York City and the world over, and we condemn this genocide. This genocide has to stop in its entirety. As Jewish people, we are even more disturbed and more pain because sadly, all of this is being done supposedly in our name. Sadly, embarrassingly enough, our religion is being misused by people who don't follow the religion and misuse this religion to justify all these crimes, all these atrocities, all this murder and theft. All of this is forbidden according to Judaism, and we as Jewish people join so many others, and we clarify that this is criminal. This is not only criminal according to international law, this is criminal according to Jewish law. This has to stop in its entirety. Yes, we desperately need a ceasefire, but the ceasefire is way not enough. We have to stop this entire occupation. All what we are witnessing the past 2 weeks didn't start on October 7th. As the Secretary General of the United Nations clearly said, this didn't happen out of a vacuum. This happened because a result of this 75 years of brutal occupation. We don't condone any violence, but we have to face reality.
ধন্যবাদ। প্লিজ চ্যানেলটি সাবস্ক্রাইব করুন। আপনাদের মূল্যবান সময় ব্যয় করে পাশে থাকার জন্য আপনাদের প্রতি রইল বিনম্র শ্রদ্ধা এবং প্রাণঢালা অভিনন্দন। দেখা হবে পরবর্তী ভিডিওতে। সে পর্যন্ত ভালো থাকুন।